Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is the game I want to talk to you about today. It is called True Messiah. True Messiah is a game in which each person is, well, think post-apocalyptic world, and think what if there were several people that all of a sudden started having the ability to do things. Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this game is called True Messiah. True Messiah is a game for 2 to 4 people in which each person has gained the abilities and, that are beyond that of a normal man, or woman for that matter, and that seem to be the gifts from God. And they have decided, each person has decided that they have seen fit to lead this apocalyptic world into fruition. But they have this nagging thing where other people are saying the exact same thing, and you must meet on the battlefield and use your followers and go into battle yourself and destroy those who would be pretenders to the messianic throne, if you will. I don't know if that's a word, but I like that. Messianic throne. This is a game where you have to, there's some deck building going on, there's some auctioning going on, there is like deterministic combat going on, but ultimately the game is won not through victory points or anything like that. The game is won by putting one of your opponents in the dirt. So let me show you how the game is played, and then we will go ahead and talk about it in my final thoughts. Alright, cool. Alright, I've set up True Messiah as a 4-player game. Now this can handle 2 players or 3 players. If you play it with either of those player counts, the board will be smaller, but in this case with 4 players, the whole complete board will be used. In a 4-player game, you have teams, so we have the red and the purple, and the white and the black, and those 2 are going to be going up against each other. Now, the way you win the game is by killing off a Messiah, which is like the person that's embodying what your group sees as the person that has the power of God, if you will. And if you manage to kill somebody's Messiah, then you win the game, because basically you've shown that they are not, you know, the offspring of a deity, and they are mortal, if you will, and then your side wins. Now, in a 2-player game, obviously one person will automatically win because they're done. But even in a 4-player game, if one team manages to kill one of the Messiahs, then the game is over and that team wins. In a 3-player game, the game still ends. You don't just keep playing after one person is killed off. You just declare the winner at that point. You also can lose the game if you ever run out of not run out of, but you lose your holy city. Each person has a holy city that is placed on the board. You can't lose that through normal attrition. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But if anybody ever invades and destroys your holy city, that also will cause that your team or your side, or if you're playing a 3-player game, cause the game to end because one person has proven their power and their ability. There is another way that you can win. It doesn't happen very often. It hasn't happened for me yet, but alternatively, if each person has a deck of cards that is their miracles, those are the things that they can do that your deity has empowered your Messiah with. If you ever have a situation that you have less than 8 miracle cards total, counting your deck, the cards in your hand, and your discard pile, basically you've shown that you have less power, and you don't have the ability to enact the power of the gods anymore, and so then that also destroys a player, and then the person causing that wins the game. And finally, if you ever have a situation where you have less than 4 followers on the board, these are your followers. You can have both people that non-believers and believers, and also you can possibly place on the board your what this is called, like your avatar, that you can go out and do things in your name as well. But if you ever have less than 4 followers on the board, basically you've lost your following, and then therefore you are out as well. And once again, the person who caused that will then be the winner of the game. Alright, so that is how the game is won. I mean, this isn't a game where it's victory points or you have to basically destroy somebody to be able to pull off the win. And usually that's by, killing their messiah or destroying their ancient city or their holy city, if you will. So you start off with 7 followers on the board. Now your followers have 2 sides to them. They have the side that has, the picture of them, and the other side they have these 2 hands, and that is praying. You will, as you play the game, activate your followers by flipping them over and having them pray for you. When they pray for you, then they give you the power to enact the cards, enact your special powers, your miracle powers, and that will enable you then to use their belief in you to basically do these acts of God. The bad thing about if they are praying for you, basically they're vulnerable. They can't fight back. If anybody attacks them, they are automatically destroyed. They do have to be on the holy site to pray for you. They need to be on your holy city, or later on in the game you're able to build temples, and then if they're on your own temples, then they can also earn those points for you as well. So there's a neat little thing there where basically you have to kind of put them in harm's way to do it, but you need to do it as well. So, and also you don't just have them pray on your turn. Later on in the game, like when other person's going, they might use a miracle that would actually affect you in some negative way that you want to prevent from happening. Maybe it's an attack that would target your messiah or what have you. You are able to then flip over your followers to gain belief, gain power that allow you to use a miracle that would protect you or change the effect of whatever act they're having. And I'll show that to you in just a little bit. The thing is that you don't get to flip them back over until it's your turn. And so if you have a bunch of followers out there and they're all flipped over, you run the risk of people like zeroing in on your defenseless followers and taking them out. Now the cool thing is that you are able also to get like these non-believer followers that they can't pray for you and you can recruit them, but they are very good at defending you. I mean, basically they're people that you're more than willing to allow them to fall at the hands of your enemies, but they're kind of mercenaries, if you will. But you can have them and put them in strategic locations to basically prevent the other players from moving in and taking you out. But I'll talk more about that when we get to combat and things like that. But on your turn, you're basically going to go through phases. If you play games like this, there's obviously different phases. The turn order stays the same. Red goes, then black goes, then purple goes, and then white goes. And then we have the auction phase where you can get more cards to put into your miracle deck. But just first things first, let me tell you what each person will do on their turn. So the first thing you're going to do is if there's any ongoing effects or anything that would happen at the beginning of your turn due to miracles or things like that, you just take care of those. And then you flip over each one of your followers that happen to be praying, that you had flipped over at some point, either on your turn or during somebody else's turn. And then, after that is done, you go through the process of recruiting followers. Now, recruiting followers, basically, it's like a force of charisma type of situation. If your messiah is on a holy site, whether it is a temple or their holy city or whatever, if they're in one of your holy spaces, they will automatically. And they can't have any other units on the spot. So basically they're there by themselves. At the start of your turn, you get to bring 2 followers into play at that location. And I took those off, but those would be brand new followers that you get to place on there. Basically, the celebrity, the charisma of your messiah draws people to him or her, and you begin to have worshippers. Now, if you have another holy space out there, so here's a red holy temple right there. Let me go ahead and put those back on there. If you have another holy space out there, and it has 2 or more of your followers, so let me just show you this. So if we had 2 followers on there like that, then you get you have the ability to you get one more follower that can be placed at any of your holy spaces. So if you had, like, say, another temple out there like this, you'd build a temple there that had one follower in that location because you had a situation, and actually because of the fact that you have this one and that one, you have a situation where then you can basically, because of the fact that you have numbers and you have people of your followers on there, both of those would gain you another follower. And the cool thing is that you can put them on other places, which is important because the maximum number of people you can ever have in one spot is 4. So then you'd be able to put, if you wanted to, you could put one here and one there. Or you could put both over there or what have you. But both of those would get followers, and you could place them at those different locations, you know, bolstering your strength and having people that can pray for you in those locations that are able to then to get you that belief power, you know, that resource that allows you to cast those miracles. If you have a situation where you have 4 of your followers, that your devout followers, people that believe in you, that are in a spot that has no temple, at that point then those 4 can build a temple in that location. You just put in one of your temples on that spot. And that happens automatically. There's no cost for it or anything like that. You basically have to get your followers into that spot and then be able to do that. The people that don't believe in you, those mercenaries, they won't do that for you. You have to have people that are devout. They are the ones that will build those temples for you. Now, an important strategy to keep in mind is that when you see, like, basically your opponents moving out and having, 4 of their believers in a spot, and it isn't their turn yet, they've kind of put themselves, you might want to get your own followers over there to attack them, to basically, get their numbers down so they aren't able to create that temple. Because once the temple is created, it can be difficult to defeat them. I mean, it's as long as you can take care of the units that are on the temple, you can destroy the temple fairly easily. But the thing is that as long as those temples are there, they're basically drawing more and more followers. They're regenerating, like the old like monster generators, if you will, from that old school Gauntlet game. So you always want to prevent people from building those temples first, instead of having to try to destroy them as well. Now you get a limited number of temples. You only get 4 temples in the one holy city that you have. Temples can be destroyed, as I said. Temples can also be destroyed that if at the end of your turn you don't have enough followers on the board to actually support the number of temples that you have. You have to have 4 followers on the board for each temple. So in this situation, like at the end of this situation, we need to get more followers on the board because of the fact that we couldn't support that. We only at this present time have 8 followers out there, so we can only support 3. So we'd have to figure out some way to get through more to get 4 more followers somehow, and then we'd be able to support all these. One of these temples we'd have to get rid of. Now, if you ever have a situation where you've placed all of your temples on the board and you want to build another one, you can do that. You just have to destroy one of the other temples to do it, and that's just done automatically. It's like it crumbles to the ground, and you build up a new one on the spot where you happen to have your devout followers. So after that's all done, that is when you will draw your top 6 cards from your Miracle deck. And this does have a deck building portion to it, and I know if you watch my thing, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the deck building mechanism, but this one has a lot more going on, as I said, so it doesn't bother me as much. So let me just take the top 6 cards here, and these are the ones that you're going to start with. And you shuffle those up, obviously. Each person starts with this 9 cards. You can tell that the starting deck because they'll have the symbol of your Messiah there on the bottom. And then each one of these cards on the top left, it has a cost up there, and that is the cost that in belief that you need to generate to be able to use this particular miracle. And so a lot of these are the same. It's like one of those games where everybody kind of starts with about the same stuff. You get a lot of these pious benefactor cards because this allows you to gain money, and money is what you use to purchase in an auction the more miracles. Once again, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'll just keep that in mind that those happen. But other things obviously just have different effects. And when it says preemptive, that means it's something that you can be used when it isn't your turn, and you can flip over your followers to use the miracle. So you may immediately move up to 2 of your units that have not yet moved this turn. So that situation, if somebody was like doing an attack, and you wanted to bolster some defense, you turn over 2 of your followers, use the miracle and do it. A preemptive range 2. Now range is obviously you can't ever move diagonal. Just think of that. It's orthogonal movement, including range as well. So range 2, choose a target space during combat this turn, the last low unit. And low units are the followers or the non-believers, not your Messiah or your avatar that you create. Choose a target space during combat this turn. The last low unit on the target space that would have been killed survives instead. So you just cast a spell and you prevent the loss of that. And here, like the Fruit of Knowledge, preemptive range 4. I may not be played in the first round, except during the last player in the turn order. Choose a target follower, make it a non-believer. If on a holy space, place the non-believer on a valid adjacent ordinary space. If no such space exists, destroy it. So, it's just... And I do like the art on these cards a great deal, and I do like the fact that it kind of evokes the theme a bit, too. And I'll touch on the theme in my final thoughts when we get there, but... Mechanism-wise, all you do to cast these things, if you want to get the money, you would turn over 2 to show that you're praying. You'd then put down the pious benefactor, and then you take coins from over there, and you could cast those spells. And a lot of times in the very beginning of the game, you'll be doing that. You'll be trying to get money because obviously you want to increase the options that you have in your deck and get more and better miracles that you'll be add to your deck. Now, each person will take their turn in exactly that same manner. The only time, after all the actions that you're going to be doing as far as the different miracles that you're going to cast and what have you, and I should mention that if you generate belief that for whatever reason, you don't use all of it, which, isn't going to happen very often, but you can't carry over belief power from turn to turn. It's use it or lose it type of situation. But if after you use, cast your different miracles, whatever, if units end up in areas adjacent to each other, like so, if they end up adjacent to one another, then they have to fight. You have no other choice. The combat occurs. You can't just exist next to each other and nothing happens. And so that's it. And there's no dice. This is very deterministic combat. Everybody has kind of the same attack power and has the same abilities. Now the big thing about this is that in turn order, starting with the active player, and then in turn order, each person declares which way they're going to attack. And so you have situations where, if you have units that might be flanked or whatever, here, perfect example here, and this is an excellent example, where you have a situation where these 4 units have to pick if they're going to attack here or here. If they, if basically after all the actions are done, that exists, you have to do the combat phase. So these units have to decide, are they going to attack here or here? You can't split them up. Now then, if this was a situation where the Messiah or the Avatar was there, they could split up their attacks and decide what they wanted to do. But in this situation, what you have here is these have to decide here or here. And they're going to get 4 hits, but obviously 2 of them are going to get wasted. So this person would say, I'm attacking here. These 2 are saying they're attacking here and here. And then you go ahead, and these 2 would be destroyed, but these 2 would still be here, and all 4 of these would be killed due to the combat. And so where your units are and the placement of your units matters a great deal when you're getting prepped for when the combat phase occurs. And that's why you're casting those different spells, while you're moving different units around, and being able to put yourself in the best possible situation as far as who you're going to attack. And I will say this, during a 3-player game, obviously when you're playing a 4-player or a 2-player, it's pretty obvious who's going to help out who. But during a 3-player game, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, as I think where this game shines, that decision making as far as who's attacking who is huge and adds a lot to the game. But anyway, so there's after you take a couple things about it, if you have a situation where the Messiah is being attacked, Messiahs have armor, and they are going to deflect the first point of damage from any area they're attacked from. So if they're being attacked from here, here, and here, and all three of them are being attacked, they would block the damage, block the damage, block the damage, and only take 1 point of damage from this. If it was a situation like all three of those, like that, they would take no damage because they're only getting 1 point of damage in each situation. Messiahs have 6 hit points, which are located here, and they have an armor. And so as they take damage, you will take your hit points off there, and after you lose all your hit points, you basically invoke this armor token, and that replenishes you back up to your 6 hit points. And then if you lose those 6, you are destroyed. If your avatar is out there, which is basically the personification of your Messiah, your avatar also, and you can actually cast miracles through them and things like that. The avatar has 3 hit points, but all 3 hit points have to be done to it all at once, or else it just replenishes itself after the combat. So your avatar, isn't killed automatically when it's attacked, but you do have to gang up on it to take it out. All right, so after everybody's gone through their combat phase, they're going to have your situation where then you're going to everybody does this. The person first clears any unused belief, so they can't hold it, as I said. If you are near a building that is uncontrolled at the end of your turn, an opponent's building that's uncontrolled, say, white managed to knock out the red that are in there, they're next to that building, they then can destroy that temple and take it out by being close to it and because it isn't unmanned. If you want to capture the temple and replace it with your own, you may place up to 4 of your adjacent low units, plus an adjacent high unit, either the Messiah or the Avatar, and place it onto it. And then any temples you capture will be subject to the low unit count at the end of the turn as well. So you have a choice between basically razing it to the ground or destroying it. When you capture or destroy, you get to take 2 coins from the person that you took it from, so you get to steal money from them, and then take 1 card off the top of the player's deck and place it in your discard pile. So that's how you can get rid of their cards. And remember, if you ever get the person down to less than 8 cards, they're out of it as well. So and also that adds cards to your deck and things that you can use. If you have in your hand, if you have you have to discard your hand down to 3 miracles at the end of your turn, basically 3 cards, and then all the players have to perform the low unit count, and that's the situation where each for every single temple that you have there, you have to have at least 4 low units on the board to be able to sustain them. And if you don't have them, so red wouldn't have them, you'd have to destroy one of your temples and get it down to that point. So you'd actually go that. And you do round down to that. So if you have 10 low units on there, that would only support 2 temples. You'd need 12 to support 3 temples. All right, so after all of that is done, what happens is you're going to have the market phase. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to take, and that's after all the people have taken their turns. So as I said, red goes, black goes, purple goes, white goes, and then we do the market phase. So during the market phase, you're going to take the top 3 cards off the top of the market. Let's see what we get here. So just, and these are obviously more powerful things. So here's teleport. Place 1 of your high units onto a valid space within range 4. Extort. Choose a target player, and then pick 1. Make the target discard his or her hand. Remove a card in the target's discard pile from the game, or 1 of the target's high units loses 1 health. The target may pay you 2 coins when this card is played to prevent the effect. And finally, Disillusion. Choose a target player. The target chooses 4 of his or her followers. Those followers are then destroyed. And that's actually pretty powerful, obviously, but it costs 6 to use. So, 6 belief. So you place these 3 on. You notice there isn't a cost on them. You've been collecting coins as the game has progressed, but you don't, how much are these cards? Well, you're actually going to auction off those cards. So you flip the 3 cards over, and I should say +1 per player. So flip the 1 card per player. So with 4 players, we're actually going to flip 7. Jeez, I totally forgot about that. I'm sorry. So here, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just want to show you this card because this card's awesome. So I just Doomsday. All enemy low units on ordinary spaces are destroyed. Pay to keep. So, that pay to keep is to keep the card, not just to get rid of it. But so for 11 power, any enemy unit that isn't on a holy space, either the holy state or a temple, is wiped off the board. I dig that card. I've used it in a few games, and that's pretty fun. But anyway, so you have your tableau. So then, every person will take, if you play games with blind bidding, every person takes their cards, takes their coins, puts them in their fist, and then you hold out. You hold out a certain number, like in your hand, like you pick, and then you hold out, and everybody reveals at the exact same time. Once the bids are revealed, each player uses their bid to buy up to 2 cards from the cards available in the market. Then whoever bid the highest gets to buy first, followed by the second highest, and so forth. If anybody that have equal bids, the ties are broken in reverse turn order. So that's, white would beat purple, purple beats black, and black beats red. So the red player, and when I've played as the red player, I've known that I probably need a lot of gold, and I probably need to be willing to spend it if there's a card out there that I really, really want. All purchase cards, as you probably guessed, will go directly into your discard pile, not your hand or your deck. And then if you buy a card and instead of keeping it, you can choose to offer it to somebody else. If you offer it to the other player and they accept it, the card goes into their discard pile. And that's mostly, obviously, you use during a team game when you're trying to make sure that you help out the other person that might be getting beaten down, and obviously if they lose, you lose as well. So once all the players have exhausted their bids, then you close off the market. Any cards that weren't purchased, you put them at the bottom of the deck, and then every player gets 1 coin for each holy space they have on the board. So that's another reason why you want temples and want to keep your temples running, because they feed you coins as well. So after all that is done, then you start a new round and you continue going. As I said, you will just continue playing until one person is destroyed. If you're playing a team game, if your team is the person that got destroyed, or one person on your team got destroyed, then you lose, and the other team can win. As I said, the 3-player game, in my opinion, is where the game shines, and that is like a triple threat match in wrestling. Doesn't matter who gets pinned. You might have played a really good game, but if one of the players gets surprised and loses, and you aren't the person to actually cause them to lose, you might have played a great game, but you lose anyway. But anyway, let me talk more about that in my final thoughts right now. Alright, thank you very much for learning how to play the game of True Messiah. I hope you enjoyed that. The game is not super difficult to learn. The only thing I think is difficult to learn about the game is remembering the different contingencies that you have with deterministic combat, and also with, if I have 4 followers in this spot, I get to build a temple, or, what if I have 2 guys on this temple, does that create this? Just remembering those things that, if, then this type of situations. The only things that we really had any kind of problems with, stumbling over and trying to figure out. But once you figure that out, and once you go with it, I mean, each of the cards, even the ones with the extended miracles and things like that, it describes very, very, the description of the actions and description of what goes on with each of the miracles is very straightforward and is easy and very intuitive. And then it's one of those games that once it is rolling, each person definitely is going to adopt their own strategy, but they're going to be able to grok the game pretty quickly, especially if you've had any sort of this designer board game background, if you will. Now then, what do I think of the game? Well, obviously I like games, like I said, deck building games tend to leave me a little stale. I think I've played too many of them. I'm glad that I think now the whole deck building genre is starting to taper off a little bit. They had that situation when Dominion came out. It seemed like everybody who had $10 worth of art and 5 seconds of ideas had a deck builder idea in their back pocket. But we've kind of moved away from that, and what we've seen now is this materialization of deck builders that really aren't deck builders anymore. Yes, this has the mechanism of deck building. You have these different powers or whatever, these different cards that give you those powers, but that facet of the game is one of like 3 or 4 of the different facets that this game presents, and so they kind of intermix, and you're not playing just like a straight deck building type of game. Now, what I really liked as far as the deck building goes is that one, like, you can steal people's cards and stuff like that. I really like that. I've played a few games where you were able to do that, and I found that to be very entertaining. I do like the whole process of, like, if you're able to steal somebody's card, you take it off the top, and then it could be like something like the Doomsday card, you know, that they spend a lot of coins on, and all of a sudden, bam, now it's mine, sorry, you know, and I enjoy that part of it. But I talked a long time ago, like when Ascension came out, if you remember that game, and it's still going strong, obviously. But, like, I really liked how, like, Ascension was just one deck, you know, and then you just turn the cards over, and those are the ones you had available. And I like that about this game. It isn't a situation where you're setting up a market, and there's, like, 7 different copies of each card, and you gotta think, okay, I need to get, like, 6 of this card that, you know, work really good with 3 of this card and 2 of that card, and if I can get this perfect draw, then I'll be able to, like, do that. And there are things you can do to, like, thin out your deck in this game. You can do things where you, like, take cards that, like, maybe were useful at the very beginning. You can, you know, kind of get rid of those and move those off to the side. But I didn't really feel like I was ever doing any kind of optimization with my deck. You know, I mean, it just didn't seem like that was something that was more important. It was more important to me to make sure that I, you know, got my followers out on the board and created those temples, and you know, basically was ready to go at it. And the turn order structure is very important in this game. This isn't, like, as I said, this isn't a game that has, like, okay, now you're the first player, okay, now you're the first player, or you can't buy the first player. So knowing fully well, you know, who's going ahead of you and which order you go in and things like that, very important. And you have to add it into your tactics and your strategy as you play, which is something that I enjoyed as well. Now, as far as the theme goes, I mentioned the theme. You know, I can see where people might have an issue with the theme. You know, and I can buy into that a little bit. I mean, when you have, like, this true Messiah, yeah, okay, you know, you have aspects of Christianity, and that draws that out. And, you know, and I am a Christian, and I you know, do have those beliefs. But I mean, one, it's a game. I'm able to divert the fact that it is a game from my personal beliefs. And also the thing is that I do believe that you know, it's a fantastic game, you know what I mean? And I don't mean like fantastic, like amazing, even though the game is amazing. I have a lot of fun with it, but it has a fantastical component. This is about this other world, basically. And so maybe not the best name in the world if you want to avoid controversy, but I do think that you can extract any kind of, like, I guess technically, if you're going to find the idea of it being sacrilege or whatever, then that's fine, and I totally get it, and I understand why you felt that way, but I really don't feel like that's what the designer was going for in any way, shape, or form. Wasn't trying to be shocking or anything like that. So I just saw it as basically, you know, like, if you read, like, World War Hulk, you know, basically this other planet, this other world, where there's these 4, you know, powerful, you know, basically spellcasters, you know, and each one of them was able to gather up these abilities and these powers, and they are now going to war and let the toughest one remain, if you will. Now, I mentioned more than a few times that I thought the 3 players, the game shines. It does. It just, with 3 players, you're always worried about, is this person going to attack me? Can I focus on this person? And you have that wonderful seesaw where one person starts getting beaten down, but then you have that moment where, like, you realize that if you keep doing this and you let the other person keep gaining strength, you have to divert your attention and start attacking them, and that allows that person that was getting beaten down to kind of come back and attack the underbelly and things like that. And the game has a nice ebb and flow. And I've always felt like, even if I was the person getting beaten down, I always felt like, you know, if I could just, you know, get a couple of turns or get a couple of actions in, I would be able to, you know, claim the victory. And usually in those games where we play 3 players, like, the victor was never really known until, like, literally moments before. I mean, just because of the fact that people were waiting for, like, that combination of cards, or like that, you know, a decision that may not have been optimal, or a backstab that came at a very good time. And I like the fact with 3 players you have that negotiation aspect as well. I mean, not flat out like, hey, you need to attack this guy here, let's work together and and then figure out. But I mean, it's almost like unspoken negotiation, where it's like you kind of all understand that you need to knock that guy off his perch, or because he's like on the cusp of pulling off a win, that sort of thing. So, my personal opinion, yes, this game worked as a 2-player game. I played it 2-player. I played it once 4-player, and that worked as well. I'm not big on the whole, like, teams thing. I don't know. I always feel like I could be doing a better job than my teammate. But, I mean, if that's your thing, I mean, the game definitely works. But I think if you play this 3-player, you're going to absolutely love it. I mean, and I think, well, I mean, and 2-player, if you're a 2-player game, 2-player themed game kind of thing, I think you'll really like it as well. So, there you go. That is True Messiah. If you have any questions, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.